Welcome, Geekscapists, to the Geekscape Book Club. This month, we are talking about Ms. Marvel, the 2014 first 5 issues. And as always, I did a little extra reading and I read ahead, and so I have to talk about those for a moment when we get there. But for now, we will introduce ourselves. I am Christian Bladt, joined by birthday girl, Kaitlin Cornell.
Yo, what's up?
Happy birthday.
Thank you.
I don't have to wish a happy day to these other two, but I am glad to see them all the same.
You can wish them a happy day.
We're going clockwise for our visual listeners. Jeff Williams Jr., thank you, sir, for joining us and talking Ms. Marvel. And of course, Count Eric Connor getting a head start on next month's entry. That's what I'll say for now for our visual listeners. He's got a Thor shirt on. The four of us talk Marvel regularly, along with some other.
I feel like it's a little reunion.
It's a little mini reunion. We talked about Ms. Marvel
together
on our show, Marvel Movie Talk, that we do on my Blackcast YouTube channel, and we did. Well, Eric and I covered all episodes of it, and Kate popped in and out, and then Jeff was around for a little of it. So we talked a lot about it. Wait a minute. Stop the presses. Another birthday. Ishma Nicole Lyles.
Happy
Today
birthday.
is Ishma's birthday as well. That was important. But anyway, we've talked about the Disney Plus Ms. Marvel series, and I knew that I was remiss for many years, long before I was doing either show, and I had known that this volume of Ms. Marvel was highly acclaimed, and anything that ends up on like a 10th printing in less than a year of the first issue, obviously it really caught on. So I'm glad I finally had the opportunity to read it. And we will all talk about that throughout the course of this conversation. But let's start with birthday girl.
Hey.
Kaitlin Cornell.
Oh, God, I missed
your
all you
thoughts
guys.
on Ms. Marvel? Issues
I actually,
1 through 5.
I really liked this one. I liked it more than I thought I would like it, but also like I was kind of coming into it after, reading the old Wonder Woman, and this felt like a fresher, new story. And yes, it was made in 2014, and I just come off of watching the show, but I also like enjoyed the comic book almost more than I enjoyed the show. And I don't know if it was because it got more into like the family dynamic, and it was like because it got more into her head, because we didn't have to kind of express. The show gave her Bruno to kind of express herself a little bit, and gave her like the romantic like to give her another like point of tension. But just having it be like, I don't know where I quite fit in story, and that's very kind of insular and isolated, I think works better in a comic book setting anyway. And I think most people who would be reading that comic book also feel very similar. And it was a young adult sense of humor. Like they were bringing up drugs and parties and, alcohol and, growing up. And I felt like they kind of knew what their audience was, and it fit the tone and it fit the medium. I really enjoyed reading it, and I was just like, that's how I felt when I was a teenager. So without the big powers, but like, I felt that
as far as you're willing to admit on a public forum without the powers. Yeah, I agree. There is a lot of that. I think that, and I'm going to admit my ignorance, but when she meets with the leader of the mosque, and I actually don't know what that title is, so someone can correct me, and I can
think
try.
It's. I'm scared.
Yeah, that's. I don't want to say the wrong thing, So when she meets with him and, he has that heart to heart, I do sort of love at the end, if you need me to warn you about the devil and boys, I'm not doing a very good job. So, I think that there is that sense of humor, and I am glad that I watched the show first, but in a way, I think I would have appreciated just how close to the original it was. We all talked about the strength of the family dynamic as being an important part of the Disney Plus series. And you get even more of that in here. I agree with you, Kate. We do get more of it. And I really enjoyed that. Jeff, what did you think of this month's entry, Ms. Marvel issues 1 through 5?
I'm actually starting to read stuff after the fact, because I like seeing what the differences they took and what what avenues they chose to take in the live action versions. And one thing that stuck out to me immediately, outside of her powers, obviously, was the dynamic between her parents, because in the comics it seemed like her dad and her mom were kind of going at her, and there was no real good guy, bad guy, or good cop, bad cop. In the TV show, the dad was always the good cop until like the very end. And in the comic, like the dad was almost the one that was like the enforcer at the beginning, and how much he was like enforcing the rules and stuff. So like it was just interesting to see what changes they made for television. Also, at first I was kind of annoyed about the power changes. Now I appreciate the change, because like it gives her a whole new look, because I'm interested to see what they're going to do with Mr. Fantastic, but like I know they're not going to do the same things, and I'm glad they kind of have her in her own lane in a good way, like so we can appreciate like everything that she's doing and her powers and all that, and then maybe venture off from that. But I really enjoyed the story, and wanted to continue seeing what was different about it. And maybe if I can't remember what Bruno's family story is like in the TV show, but like what about Bruno's family? Because we got to see Bruno's brother in the comics, and maybe we can
Bruno.
Exactly. So hopefully we can talk about Bruno more in season 2, because maybe like bringing in his family members, that could be a cool aspect.
Yes, this is actually the only time we talk about Bruno. Eric, I wanted to get your thoughts on Ms. Marvel, and I have your screen grabs, but be gentle when you call for them, because as always, you send a lot, and you send it less than an hour before we do the show.
It sounds like you're victim blaming.
I'm the victim, and yes, I'm
blaming
you.
Fine, I have an idea. I'll send nothing. Is that what you want?
Yes.
Just send it to me and Jeff.
I'm here with my Thor, by the way, God of Beer shirt. Keeping it classy, you know.
Just hold up your phone throughout the course of the show.
Keeping it classy.
Yeah. Keeping it classy.
Waka waka.
So, Eric, tell us what you thought.
So, I mean, this was such a fun read, and you know, we were talking about like this versus Wonder Woman, and Wonder Woman was so dense, had so much stuff in there going on. It was, I mean, just to go down that road would take forever, but there was something lovely in how streamlined this all was.
Yeah.
And it's funny, reading this too reminded me why, or maybe remind me how some of the Marvel shows maybe have missed the mark. Because one thing about like limited series or new runs of familiar characters, this was really rooted in character, very easy to follow emotionally, everything tracked emotionally. You know, you're not left with like big question marks. And I think that's something that, you know, it's almost like a cue Marvel could really take, MCU TV can take from the comics. Right. You know, we've often talked about limited run series. I know, you know, Christian has that thing for Kitty Pryde and Wolverine, which was a great limited run, you know. And I think like here we get the character, we're with the family. By the way, the first line, I just want to smell it. That's a great opening line.
Great.
And I don't know if you guys watch Master of None. Master of None had a whole subplot about bacon in one episode, a whole subplot, entire subplot about pork and bacon, and it was brilliant. And I found like this family very relatable. It's funny. I was thinking how, you know, you guys brought up how the dad is so much sort of sweeter in the series than he is in the comic. Part of that casting, they cast a guy who, like in the comic book, he looks a bit like a brute, like one of my uncles. And then in the show, the guy they cast doesn't have that same sort of intimidating presence. And I was wondering, maybe the TV show reflected the showrunner's parents more. The comic book maybe reflected then the writer's parents more. I wasn't sure what shifted there, but yeah, this is a great read. Can't recommend it enough. It's a wonderful companion to the show. And I like Jeff. I'm glad I saw the show first.
Do you think it was? I was gonna say, do you think it was just to add like disparity between the parents more, and the fact that like having two parents going at her, like, I mean, maybe she could like confide in her dad or something. Also, I forgot to mention, I was in the comic book, it just said that like her name means perfect, and then in the TV show, it meant her name meant perfect, and then her name meant Marvel. Yeah. And I had to go back because like I thought they didn't change the translation, but they didn't. They clarified that like a different translation means Marvel.
Oh,
the one that the different dialect that they speak, I believe.
It's like how shalom means hello, goodbye, and peace. You know, some words do a lot of heavy lifting in other languages.
It's no aloha, but I do understand what you're saying. Just imagine if she were Ms. Aloha, which is a character that perhaps, you know, somewhere in the next few years. I did notice some differences. And that's a great theory, Eric, that it might be the comic book creators' parents as an influence versus the showrunners. I'm sure that's something that could be found out. Did you have a thought on that, Kate?
Yeah, I also think that it was to isolate her more in the first two issues.
Yeah.
From people. It's like, you know, she's isolated from her parents. She's got these powers. She can't talk to her best friend because he kind of like snitched on her. Both of her parents are, you know, on top of her. Her brother's not fucking helpful. and
Kate, although he did have that one great line where it's like, you know, who did this? What did they do to you? I'm going to get some brothers from the mosque. And
I know, so funny.
That's true.
Like,
I'm
not saying he wasn't hilarious while he was not helpful, but he was definitely not helpful and hilarious.
Yeah.
And anyone who says like, you know, any kid that's the older brother is just like, I'll pray for you. It's like, oh, great.
That was great. That was one of my favorite lines.
I think the dynamics. Sorry, what was that, Eric?
Nobody prayed for me when I was growing up. So
no. The dynamics I think are still strong and very similar, you know. But yeah, there are definitely some character differences, and I did appreciate sort of, you know, just being able to get Kamala's story. You know, you really get more in depth, obviously, when you're reading 5 issues of a comic book. I mean, six episodes of a TV series is great for those of us who read ahead. There, you know, you get a little bit more, and we'll sort of talk about that in terms of the way that we see. We get a better idea of how she fits into the Marvel universe after these 5 issues. But I think that this is a great starting point for the character, and you know, this realization that you know, how she initially looks like Carol, I thought was interesting, and taking the production aspect out of the fact that you didn't want to, you know, use Brie Larson more than once on the TV show. You want to introduce the character. I did think that that's a great realization, you know, just having the self-confidence that, well, I mean, I'm the hero, so I'll be me, instead of just sort of having that representation where she looked like Carol. It made sense. I thought from a storytelling standpoint, it was sort of an interesting difference. I'm glad they didn't do it for the TV series.
Yeah.
But I thought that it worked really well. And I think we really get to know her. You know, you referenced Bruno kind of ratting her out to her parents. And when I read that, I'm like, okay, so is this Bruno like not have a crush on her? Because who does that? You know, who rats
he totally had a crush on her. Are you kidding me?
No, I know.
But that's just like foreplay. You know, it's like, hey, I turned you into your parents, so you want to go?
Yeah, like, huh?
Let's go on a date after that.
But I think when you're panicked and you're 16, like, it was.
Well, no, I think he was legitimately worried about her, and you know, and there's that level of it, and that was all he could do. But I don't know. Look,
also, as my rabbi used to say, snitches get stitches.
But here's the thing: these kids are also really smart, because like when she's in the gym and she's trying to figure out like, okay, like force acceleration, like she's literally doing science in her head to kind of figure out her powers, and then she causes a mini earthquake. But like, I also think that to go back. Can we go back to the like pretending to like the turning into Marvel, Captain Marvel for a second?
Yeah, absolutely.
I think that another theme of the comic that wasn't a theme in the show is the idea of being someone you're not. And it's like, it's going to, and also the show took out the Terrigen bomb. That the Terrigen bomb was what gave her the powers, because they're going to pretend that Inhumans doesn't exist. And so they're turning her into a mutant instead of how she actually got her powers, which was the Terrigen bomb that Black Bolt exploded.
Look, I'm just going to say it right now. In issue 8 of the comic book, she ends up with Lockjaw, and Lockjaw teleports around with her. So there's anybody who knows the way that I speak about the Inhuman series, I can excuse any disregard for it, except I will never stand for smack talk about Lockjaw. And when Lockjaw showed up, and they really, embraced this idea that she's an Inhuman, and then her first Marvel superhero interaction was Wolverine. And I'm like, oh man, this moment in time where Wolverine didn't have his healing factor in 2014. That honestly, I don't even care why, because I'm sure it wouldn't be a good story for me, for me to read. But just getting to see her interact like that with Wolverine and with Lockjaw just has me excited for the idea of how much we're going to see of her interacting with the MCU as a whole. But and look, they've made that decision that they don't want to involve Inhumans in her story. When at C2E2, when it was mentioned to longtime X-Men writer Chris Claremont that the MCU had decided Kamala Khan was a mutant, his response was, "What the fuck?" So, not everybody seems to think it's the best way to do it, but
I think there's
sorry, I was just going to say it's a way to introduce mutants that's a choice that they've made. And I'm sorry, what were you going to say, Birthday Girl?
No, I think it's also a political thing, because Inhumans was kind of like the break between, the cinematic universe and the television universe. So I think there was another thing happening there that they can't really bring Inhumans back, unfortunately. And they really wanted, now that they have Fox, they're going to try to pull in X-Men as soon as possible. But I think, to finish that quick thought, I think that the theming of the show, of where Kamala Khan, what the issues of being a teenager that Kamala Khan was dealing with in the show, and giving her more allies and giving her, a love interest very early, where do I fit in? And, no one really, like, that doesn't really kind of land with the story that they wanted to tell, and who they wanted to bring in, and how fast they wanted to bring them in.
Right.
But it does work in the comic to isolate her like that. So, and make her kind of deal with something very personal, like, what, this feels weird to be someone that's not me, and have that be the journey. So I think it has to do with more the theming journey, and less the kind of logistical optics.
Well, one of the things I do want to bring up next is the most significant difference. I think that one of the most substantial complaints about the television series was sort of the lack of a clear villain. I mean, I think that, we had sort of an adversary approach, but really, if you look at it, the true villain of the series was Damage Control. And there was something that she had to deal with, obviously, with the Jinn, I guess was what we were calling them in that. Mm-hmm. But let's talk about what we did get, which is, of course, a screen grab, thanks to our friend Eric Connor, of the Inventor, which I don't know anything about this guy, but I don't know. Can I get away with this for Halloween? Because I would like to, but
you want a cockatoo mask?
Yeah, I mean,
she has one right off camera.
I'm going to borrow one of Eric's flannel shirts for the rest of the ensemble. But
yeah, I can take it from the neck down. You're covered. The neck up is where Kate will come in.
Yeah, so maybe I'll do a Kickstarter for it. But I want to ask you first, Jeff, as when you think about comic book villains, I mean, who you associate, Spider-Man, you think of really all of the Sinister Six. You think of these iconic villains. And look, this version of Miss Marvel is a very offbeat character, and it's sort of tongue in cheek. So personally, I feel like it works, but it's a little hard to take the cockatiel crazy, as it were, take him seriously. I mean, but what was your thoughts when you got to the reveal of who she's going up against?
Honestly, I just took it for what it was. We've seen, when you said Spider-Man, we've seen he talks to a lizard, like he's fighting a lizard who's a human. He's talking to a sand person. Like, we've seen Harry Styles come up with like so many a creature. We've understood a raccoon. We've seen a tree be loved.
It's
we
great
saw
points.
Like, you know what I'm saying? Like Groot is a tree. He says I am Groot, and he has his own series. So when I saw this, I was like, okay, how am I gonna find a way to love this? So I was accepting for what it was.
Well, good. I'm glad that you had room in your heart, and it took a minute for me. Let's just say that. I needed a minute, and he continues to loom large in subsequent issues. But sicking a giant alligator on Kamala and Logan. So that's I'm interested to see where he goes. Eric, what did you think of The Inventor?
Well, I just texted you a photo, Christian, of a lesser-known wrestler named.
Wait, so you're sending me more pictures while we're on the air?
The
and you're sending them to me, and you're sending them to me on my phone. Yeah,
the gobbledygooker.
The gobbledygooker.
You know him?
Yes.
Oh my God, Kate. That's a birthday gift to me. As you know.
You're welcome.
You know what's bad? I thought that was Dave's hot chicken.
I'm surprised you didn't send me the San Diego chicken.
No. San Diego chicken. Wait, do you remember Christopher Walken?
Jeff, that's now all I want to do with you is get Dave's hot chicken and talk weird wrestlers.
Yes.
When
Christopher Walken in character's
down.
Rainbow Wig Man said San Diego chicken is a whore. It's one of the greatest lines ever on Saturday Night Live. What's that?
WWE is in Hollywood April 1st next year. Just saying, just throwing it out
that's
there.
right, WrestleMania.
Yeah, WrestleMania. Yeah, I said WWE. WrestleMania is
from what I understand, the Wrestlers Mania will be in town in April. That's the
and guess what else happened?
April
1st is my
know
birthday, that. So I might have to.
All right.
Up.
We're gonna make something.
Keeping the birthday theme. All right.
Exactly.
But anyway,
I mean, when that chicken showed up,
so bad.
That chicken showed up, and then I did some reading. It's a chicken hybrid with Thomas Edison. It's a Thomas Edison clone.
Yeah,
and
that comes up in issue 6. Yes,
that's even better.
I have a lot of room in my heart for animals. As you know, my dog has made many cameos on the audio end of our podcast.
But
true. The truth is, while I find a giant lizard scary, I find Rocket Raccoon wonderfully ironic. You lose me at chicken. I will say, a chicken as an arch villain. Again, chicken as an arch villain. Just I'm okay with a shark wearing pants and Suicide Squad, but some bridges.
Obviously, you don't have an appreciation for the Jack Lord classic, the original version of Hawaii 5-0, where one of the mobsters was known as Big Chicken. But that's all right. Look,
I'm a fan of hot chicken. Hot chicken,
Yeah.
Nashville chicken, buffalo chicken, great. Chicken
Pollo Campero, perhaps.
But I didn't mind that it took a bit of time to get to him. What'd you say? Pollo Hermanos.
I said Trace Hermanos. I got
the menu right over there.
Yeah.
Signed. But yeah, I didn't mind that it took a while to sort of have the sort of true villain's face shown.
Yeah, sure.
While I did have an issue with it in the TV show, a very big issue, honestly, in my mind, what stopped us short of being maybe the best Marvel TV show was the lack of a villain. But I didn't, weirdly enough, I didn't mind it here because there was enough going on that I didn't have bigger questions. Like, I was okay with sort of just the villain in some ways in those first issues was her own insecurities. That was her biggest antagonistic force. And then we get into the sense of, okay, now what's happening in Jersey City? Jersey City always is going to have some kind of chicken themed villain. We know that. So it's just a matter of which one.
I mean, having spent time in Jersey City, having at the end of a long night, woken up on the PATH train in Journal Square, having missed Hoboken. I'm surprised he's not Giant Rat, but that's just me. But look, a big fan of our Marvel show and of Kamala Khan is our friend Daniel Drew, who says, just saying, I need him in a potential season 2 of the Ms. Marvel show. Bring on the hybrid glory. I look, absolutely. He should definitely be a part of it because he's, her first adversary. And anytime you're going to show me a picture of Mean Gene Okerlund is perfectly fine with me. So you can
go for it, Jeff.
Everybody wants to talk at the same time, but who gets to go first? Birthday girl.
No, Jeff.
I just have a question about, since we're talking season 2s, do you think that Marvel either planned it or is listening to people, listening to the fans? Because we see that Daredevil is 18 episodes. We're hearing that Moon Knight might be 12 episodes. Hopefully, like, season 2s are being a lot longer, so like the storylines have a lot longer time to develop, and we get more of what we're asking for, because like you just mentioned, these 6 episodes, we're pushing a lot of content in 6 episodes. So that was my only like kind of question / discussion point, is like, hopefully they're moving to, hopefully season 2 of this will be 12 episodes or something.
Yeah, no, I think that's a good point. And yes, I think that we're able to have longer seasons. For the sake of our mutual friend Michael Shirley, I hope Loki season 2 is 30 episodes.
Oh
but
my God.
just because I want to see.
No. For the sake of Michael, I hope that Wanda is 90 episodes.
Do you mean Agatha?
Oh God!
Do you want Agatha to be 90 episodes?
Agatha.
Yes, you did. Kate, what were you going to say?
I don't even. I think if they do the Inventor like they did, okay, and I know it's Netflix, but it's technically MCU now because it's on Disney Plus. Yeah. What they did with Jessica Jones, when David Tennant played the villain, I feel like that was a really good way to do an absurd, in the best way, comic book villain, because he's got purple skin and they did the purple suit, but he was still terrifying, and you could tell why he was terrifying to her.
I mean, his character name was Purple Man.
His name was Purple
Man. They took him and they turned him into Kilgrave, and they made him, one of like the scariest, most, well done portrayals that they've had.
I was about to say, I had no idea who you were talking about. I need to see Purple Man. I need to read a comic about. Okay.
I know.
And by the way, he has a daughter, Purple Girl. She was on
Kilgrave is so great. Kilgrave
was amazing.
So I'm thinking, like, if they do that, it's like that translated, and they did a lot of it in the show in Jessica Jones. And I know we're going off topic, but they tried to light him in a kind of a purple tone sometimes. Like they would do like a colored LED or something, so that the shadow would come across his face, and it would be a colored shadow, so it looked like they kind of figured out a way to do a comic book villain that doesn't look quite human, in a way that it didn't look absurd on camera. And they got the tone of the character without having to purple him up a lot. So if they do that with the Inventor, and I think that might be a really cool, it's possible, is all I'm saying, is it's possible. So we're talking about gobbledygooker as a joke, but like, I'm sure if they could figure it out, it would be really cool.
Get Jeffrey Rush, dye his hair gray, make him look like Edison, and he's constantly chewing on a chicken bone. That's all I'll do. Anything more than that, I'm out.
Everybody hire Eric for all of your, needs.
And just some quick research for our visual audience. This is the official handbook of the Marvel Universe portrayal of Purple Man. So circa 1985. This was what Purple Man was, and to coincide with the Jessica Jones series, they have a much darker, sort of sinister projection of him. But I mean, he was literally.
Did you pull that
Purple
up just
Man.
now?
What's that?
The Purple Man.
Yeah, I was while you were talking.
Why are you giving Eric so much shit then, big one? You could pull that up just now.
No, because
listen,
this
because
is what
that's
makes
more
him
important.
feel taller.
I'm sorry, I'm just gonna say it's more relevant than a picture of the gobbledygooker.
I would argue that God is much more on point here.
But I agree. And look, I did that instead of what I wanted to get a picture of, which was Peter Griffin fighting the chicken on Family Guy. That's what I actually really wanted to get. But then everybody had to start talking Purple Man, so I thought that was
everybody, just me,
just you. No, but we all wanted to talk.
Kilgrave should come up in every conversation.
I mean, he would insist on it. I would think. So the idea of a villain that suits your that suits your character, I think, is important. I mean, I'm glad that our mutual friend Michael is not here with us, because he hates whenever I talk about Power Pack. But look, I was like 9 when I started reading that, and they're a group of 4 kids, 2 brothers, 2 sisters, and their big bad in the early run of that series was a guy called Boogeyman, and it made sense because they're kids. You know, they weren't going to take on Doctor Doom. They eventually, you know, did have to go up again. You know, the Power Pack tie into the Mutant Massacre was not something that I ever saw coming. Let's put it that way. But apart from that, I think that, you know, it's good. And look, Kamala's now been around in the comics for 8 years. So, and, you know, she's been on the Champions and, you know, other teams and whatnot. So I think that we should see this character, even if he's not the prime focus of an additional season. And I'm just assuming that we're going to get another season after the Marvels movie. Maybe I'm wrong, but that's what I want. I want to, and I know, Kate, you've only got about 10 more minutes because you've got birthday things to tend to. So I wanted to ask you, let's kind of get both a pro and a con. So you can start with either one. One of your favorite things about these 5 issues, or if there was something that stood out where you were like, oh, this could have been a little different.
Okay.
Either or, you know, like a favorite or a least favorite. So
I think that the pro is that it was so easy to read and kind of glide through. I felt like I could see the image, and the image was also telling the story as well as the lettering. And sometimes the letterboxes would have the little mark, like when she was discussing her like inner Marvel thoughts about like what it's like to be a superhero, it had the little like lightning bolt next to it, which I thought was really cool. So it felt like everything was working together between the lettering and the art, and the text was really kind of coming together to make a cohesive piece. I think some of my favorite panels, the one panel I go back to was the secrets panel, when it's her kind of like, it's like it smells of secrets. If it smelled of anything, it smelled of secrets. And I thought it was just so beautiful, and that line was really beautiful, and it really struck me. And I was like, I had to like sit with it for a second. It's like, what is that? What does that even mean? Like, what does that even feel like? And I loved the image, and I loved the text. And also when, and I think this is going to lead into my con, Kamala Khan.
Kamala Khan convention.
I know. When the convenience store is being robbed, and she's debating calling 911, and she pulls out her phone and says, "LOL, no battery." And I loved that. And I was like, it made me laugh out loud, and very few comics made me like, oh, that's funny, because I turned it and I was like, oh my God. And I loved, and it made me, and in that moment I realized, I'm like, oh, the graphic work that they did on the show is something I missed in the comic book. And I thought it came more from the comic than it did from the creators of the show. So props to the creators of the show for doing all those like graffiti oneers and like, you know, the way that the text stuff comes up. But, you know, in the comic in 2014, like I thought it was really, really basic, and they didn't play with it as much as they could. And maybe they've learned to play with it later, but it wasn't until I saw how funny that could be and how like ingenious it could be that I missed it. And it was like, oh man, like I feel like this is the drawing is the opportunity to go like ham wild. And they didn't really go into her imagination as much. I mean, they talked about her imagination, and they would have these big panels, but it was mostly describing her fan fiction.
Right.
And so going into like the imagination of a young fan, I think the show did better than the comic. And I don't know why.
I'll just interject. I think that medium really lends itself to, you know, you can have anything as part of your imagination, or, you know, anything as an aside. I think that they did a good job on the show, but I agree with you 100% that it was a lot more fun in the comic.
Yeah, or like there was more opportunity in the comic to do it than they allowed themselves to. They got really into like the insecurity, like being isolated part of it. But when a kid gets isolated, they have to kind of think of another world, or like what they could be doing, or like how they could, you know, solve a problem. They go into their imagination, especially when they're isolated. So I felt like there was more opportunity to do that the show definitely took advantage of.
And so does that tie into the con so that's your con from the book? Yes. But in general, I agree, especially with what you started with, just how easy it was to read. Look, comics it's not 2022. This one's from 2014. The comics that I grew up reading, I don't know. As I started reading comics as a 7-year-old, and I'm like, and my son's 7 now, and I'm like, I don't know how I processed any of that. I probably didn't. I was like, oh, but look at these pictures, and there, it's a lot easier. It was like it was like one night my wife and I were going to watch something on TV, and I'm like, oh, hold on, I have to finish the last 2 issues of Ms. Marvel. And then 20 minutes later, I was like, okay, I can watch TV now. She's like, I thought you had to read. I'm like, no, I'm done. I read them, because you can read them so fast. And I don't think that's a bad thing at all. I don't think that the stories are slight or insignificant in any way. I just think that there's a lightness to it. It's not like reading, as you said, as we've said earlier, it's not like reading that volume of Wonder Woman. It's certainly not like reading something like Crisis on Infinite Earths or even Secret Wars, where you're just packing so much into there. So I think it's great. And I think that these comics obviously geared towards younger readers. You don't want to scare them away in any way. But somebody that I think we're in danger of scaring away is the birthday girl, who has places to be. She has candles to blow out, cakes to eat, and I believe that I'll see you later this evening at a gathering that's happening.
Yes.
And I am not going to have the no hug bracelet, so I expect a birthday hug. So
yeah, I COVID complied my own birthday, so I brought my job home.
Yeah, you left enough money in the budget to have a COVID compliance officer, except of course it was you.
Yeah.
Well, if people want to send you birthday wishes or find other thoughts that you have on this and many other media that you're commenting on, including your Star Trek podcast that's right here on Geekscape, let everybody know where they can find all of it.
So I'm on Instagram, TikTok, and Twitter at Cornellable, CORNELLABLE. I'm also on Twitter at Final Frontier Pod, as well as Instagram. And the next episode of Final Frontier, where we discuss Strange New Worlds, Children of the Comet, which is episode 2, is actually starting at noon today on the Geekscape Network. And we will be talking about the math of music with Tom McNally. So he's got his guitar out, and if you ever wanted to know the math of harmonics and music theory and how they could use music to make a language and translate a language as they do in the show, please listen to the podcast. And then the next episode will be
Peter Griffin fighting the giant chicken. I wanted to make sure to share that with you before you left. I wanted to make sure you saw it. So the next episode of Final Frontier Pod, will it be on Strange New Worlds episode 3, or am I spoiling something?
Episode 2, Children of the Comet. Episode 2 is Children of the Comet.
I see what you're saying. Yes.
So it's their first away mission. And it's, if you didn't watch Strange New Worlds, it's okay. We don't spoil it. And it's all about the science of it.
But if you didn't watch Strange New Worlds, you should, because it's I think it's great. You don't have to have a deep knowledge of Star Trek. There's definitely little nods for those that do. But if you've only ever seen the J.J. Abrams movies, this will be a perfect thing for you to jump in on.
It's a perfect segue into the world.
Well, thank you so much, Kate, for talking Ms. Marvel with us. And
I miss you guys.
We hope to see you when you're available on Thursdays over on Marvel Movie Talk on my YouTube channel.
It's Thursday now?
Yes, because She-Hulk is going to premiere on Thursdays. So our show is going to go on to Thursdays. I think because the Cassian Andor series is on Wednesdays, and what they learned from the Kenobi.
Don't they know that we do a podcast and we should keep it consistent?
Well, I thought it was High School Musical.
No. Which, by the way, Jeff did cover for AfterBuzz. You were on the season 1 after show of High School Musical series. I remember very well, actually.
I will be available.
Great
for
times.
That,
Great times.
Great. Well, we'll see you when we can, and have a great birthday. Thanks for chatting with us.
Thanks, guys.
And we will talk
Happy
to
birthday.
you soon. Bye-bye. So, what stood out for you, Jeff? Sort of, we talked about, big pros, big cons, just any lingering thoughts of when you were done with these 5 issues. What were some of the things that you thought? It doesn't have to be negative, but we welcome any criticisms if they are there.
I'm gonna say I enjoyed, because at first I did enjoy the differences that was in the comics compared to the TV show, just because like I have a lot of friends that don't like. I have a lot of friends that read the comics first and now watch the TV show and expect, or watch a movie and expect so many things to be exactly like what they read and what they expect. I'm kind of the opposite. I want it to be different, and I like to see what they changed and where they got their inspiration from, because it's directors, it's producers, it's it's companies, so there's gonna be differences. But either way, I really enjoyed the family dynamic, like we all talked about. I thought it was really cool, and I also really appreciate how they changed the family dynamic in the TV show, because I just think it gave each character an avenue to shine, because it gave the dad more comedy, more levity to just be himself. It gave the mom a backstory. It gave her a reason to be why she is because of her mom. So it just gave each person more context in my eyes in those 6 episodes. And yeah, and I feel like her brother was just a light throughout each the TV show and throughout the comic.
I think that that's sort of what I was getting at earlier. That character is very consistent in both versions, of him, and I think it's important that she has that, that it's not just her versus her parents. I think it's important. And I'm sorry, what were you going to say, Jeff?
One thing that like threw me off was when at the beginning when she started like not transporting, but like turning into Carol Danvers. Like it like threw me off. I didn't understand why she was doing it. Maybe also because like in a TV show she doesn't really show that power. Yeah. So like I don't know, is this normal? Is she just turning into like a look-alike? Is she Carol Danvers? It was just kind of confusing at first.
Yeah, so, the comic book, I feel like it goes on to really steer into the skid of just how much of a fan she is of these characters. Like, she knows a lot about Wolverine. Like, she knows his power set when she meets him. Dope. She did, so it's like, and he receives that the way you expect Wolverine to be. He's like, oh, great, a fan, But they have like a nice bond, and there's like a mutual respect, and I know that those characters interact again down the road. So it's fun to see. What about you, Eric? Big pros, big cons. Some of your thoughts on Ms. Marvel 1 through 5.
Well, I mean, the biggest pro will be I really want to read issues 6 and beyond. Like the story just kind of gets ramped up at issue 5, but it never felt like, I mean, a lot of times, I don't know, when you think of even TV shows you love, where the pilot's not so great because they're doing so much world building and so much act 1 business, if you will. This one, you could probably accuse it of the same thing. And yet, like I said before, I really didn't mind. Like I was enjoying the world. I mean, listen, going into Jersey City physically, but reading it in a comic book or watching TV, yeah, especially when they film it in like Atlanta. It's the best part of Jersey City is Georgia. Yeah, but the truth is,
I'm gonna reverse that and say the best part of Atlanta is the part that's just like Jersey City.
There it is, right?
It's the part that's as far away from that Brave Stadium as possible, which of course is not in Atlanta anymore. They built it way out in the suburbs.
Jeez.
Yeah. Well, and it's why the soccer team's done so well in Atlanta, because it's actually in the heart of the city, and then the baseball team got pushed all the way out, which is fine by me. If one Brave fan is too many in my book.
Push him back to Milwaukee. You know what I'm saying? But yeah, anyway, sorry. Finish your thought.
It was all good. It was such a wonderful read, and I only use the word wonderful to describe Jeff, Kate, and never Christian, but
but definitely
adequate
that we work with.
But
yes,
but it was a really fun read. It's one that the second I finished it, I was thinking, okay, trying to convince my older guy. He's resistant to reading, and so I'm like, dude, let's read some comic books together then. And so this is one I would very much like put right on his list. And and I think it's interesting because the TV show got more political and then also more comic book like than this comic, which is also kind of funny. Like, it was more stylized. It went into sort of deeper realities than I thought they might, considering how, per previous discussion, I thought Winter Soldier and Falcon never quite went there enough. Almost like put a toe in that water instead of a whole foot. But here, the TV show I thought balanced it pretty nicely, but I really enjoyed how spare this comic book was. It in some ways it reminded me of I have a lot of CDs behind me. We all obviously have a ton of digital music, infinite digital music, but in some ways it felt like putting a record back on. That's what I like about this book club as well, is like it kind of makes you go back to the thing that drew a lot of us into the Marvel universe.
Sure.
Which was sitting down, reading the comics, but also reading a series. Reading be it a limited series or just a storyline that goes through 10 or so issues. So, a lot of pros here. Maybe cons, some of the art. I don't know, those faces that look like I could draw them. Like my 11-year-old walked by, is like, what's with that?
That's so that would have been the big con if our friend Michael, who has been on this show regularly, if he had decided to read this one. I know that art is a big stumbling block for him. One of the things that I like the most about the series is the relatability of this character. I mean, yes, she's a young Muslim girl in New Jersey. You tell me the difference between her and Peter Parker figuring out his powers. And that's what I like, is how accessible that is. And, reading these on Marvel Unlimited, they have the letters pages that were printed in the original issues. And I was reading those, and that was sort of a common theme that was, yes, that's, this character is trying to create some more representation for a group that hasn't been, but it should be accessible to everybody. It was like, even, adults are like, well, I don't even, this comic probably isn't for me. And the editor was like, no, of course it's for you. It's for everybody, and I like it, how relatable she is, and how, she's still like every person, and anybody who is trying to figure out these powers would, have some of the same difficulties she does. And I think that there are times where the art left something to be desired, but the covers are all beautiful, and I think the interiors are okay for the most part. But it is one of my bigger complaints for modern comic books, is that the art is not what it once was. There are and this isn't even the example. This is certainly not the worst, but we even said the same thing when we did Doctor Strange Way of the Weird. Some of that art left something to be desired. So there's a couple things that I want to make sure we get to. So our pal Daniel Drew said he did the Disney Plus fan survey that got sent out, and typed so many things about potential ideas for a Ms. Marvel season 2. He's the only person he knows who opted in for these. And the Key Files is there and says, I dig the idea of a book club review of comic book runs. Thank you. So do I. That's why we do the show, because it seemed like a good idea to us. And I think it's definitely been fun to explore these things and, get to talk about them more. So, and Eric, I know you sent me a number of images, and for our visual audience, I want to make sure that we have some inclusion of them, keeping in mind that our audio audience isn't going to see them. Is there one or two that you'd like to call for by name, and maybe set up what it is about it, and then we can kind of go to it from there?
One that it was just you probably don't even need to share the frame, but I did love the shout out to Bill and Ted. Strange things are afoot at the Circle Q.
Yeah, I did like that. Strange things are afoot at the Circle Q, which I always liked that it was the Circle Q. And I agreed with that. Absolutely. Yeah. I mean, go ahead.
No, I was going to say, I also had here when she got shot. And I thought that was actually a really funny little plot thread, was she gets shot and then she transforms back. It's like, oh, shoot, it still hurts there. So her figuring out so many of the logistics, you brought up Peter Parker. I'm a sucker for all those. Like anytime Ant-Man's trying to figure out how to be an Ant-Man and winds up in some kind of rave, I think there's something so human about that, which is what makes it great. But I love when it said, "Where's the bullet? It may have fallen down the back of my pants."
Yes.
And then later she finds it. And I'm like, that's awesome.
Yeah. I like when these characters don't take themselves too seriously. And I think that that's definitely what we're getting from Kamala here.
Oh, and the frame also, I like, it was just kind of a throwaway one, but her walking down the street and there's some dude, I seemingly passed out drunk on the sidewalk, and some little kid has face planted. I was like, there's so much going on in this one little frame. And it was just her like walking and having a monologue
yeah, it's incidental to what's actually happening. Yeah, there's a kid.
What happened to that child? We just saw him running across down the street and he's face planted.
Should we assume that she pushed him over?
I want to. Like she like put her foot. She let her foot embiggen a little bit, and that guy next to the wall. I think if one of my friends directed this, I would be playing that character.
Absolutely.
Yeah. Even in younger times, that tended to be my specialty at film school.
You'd be giving your best Foster Brooks interpretation as that character. It's it's included in so much media is the unhoused individual with an alcohol problem is what we would call them in the present day, where they see. They have a big swig out of their brown paper bag that has a bottle in it. They see something that's crazy, and they realize that the only solution is to just go for another big swig because it's the only way to process what they just saw.
I agree.
Yeah.
Big can of Duff Light.
Oh yeah.
Yeah.
Oh,
and Duff and Duff Ice.
And Duff
so many. Yeah.
And also the party where I was convinced they were playing this is a deep track. Apologies. It might be.
Oh yeah.
It might be before your time. I think they were playing "Walk the Dinosaur" by Was Not Was.
Yes.
Boom, boom,
I was going to say that was not was a deep pull. The reference to boom boom shakalaka laka boom. If there's a video to watch after you finish this show that includes you, Jeff, it should be the video for Was Not Was Walk the Dinosaur. The text that I'll get after it is like, wait, this was on TV and it was on MTV often.
You can escape it, honestly.
Yeah. I agree that this just increased my appreciation for this version of Ms. Marvel, and I'm enjoying the subsequent issues that I've read. I look forward to reading more. I love crossovers. I mean, going way back to even before the Flintstones meet the Jetsons. I'm talking the Murder, She Wrote Magnum PI crossover. Like, I'm all in on that. All right. when it was Hurricane Saturday and the hurricane went through Golden Girls, Empty Nest, and Nurses, I'm all in. What's that?
Did it also affect 227?
I don't think 227 was in South Florida, so I doubt it did. It was like
all these shows.
Yeah, but in any case, so it's always fun to do this, and I love doing this show, and our cast of characters who are able to weigh in. What we're going to do next month is another Marvel tie-in, but I promise it won't be a Marvel one next month. I already have that one figured out. But what we're going to do for next month, it will be to tie into Thor: Love and Thunder, which there were a lot of opinions about before we started, but we really had to focus it on Kamala. I felt like that was really the right approach to have there. In any case, I feel like the logical story for our next book club would be The Mighty Thor, the Jason Aaron run of Thor that introduced Jane Foster as Thor. And there's a lot of similarities from what I'm told. I haven't read it, and that's the whole idea for Key Files and other people that aren't familiar with the show. The idea is things that we feel like we should have read, we just never have. So we're going to read that next month. It's you can grab a physical, digital, however you want to consume it. The trade paperback is available, and I believe that the day that we have for that will be the 11th of September. And time TBD as always, but we will look to make that work about a month from now. But in the meantime, Jeff, where can people find you and continue the conversation about Flash season 9 and Water Dragons and all the things that we know that you like to discuss.
All my favorite things, because after the Flash season 7, it just got even better and better. But no, you guys can follow me and continue conversation at Jeff Will Jr. on all your social media platforms. And appreciate the love on the Storm shirt. Always love rocking her. We just need her in the MCU now.
Absolutely. Well, we appreciate that. And Eric, where can people find you?
Oh, in so many places in Burbank, but you also can try me over at Count Eric Connor at Instagram and on Twitter. And if you want to know what's going on, by the way, in Burbank, my other hat, I'm officially chair of the Cultural Arts Commission. So now, I don't know what that means at all. The reign of terror begins for BurbankArts.com.
So your other hat is a chair, is what you're trying to say. And yes, I saw that you posted that you were out there for that Friday evening cultural arts festival, I guess is what they call it, out in front of the movie theater, right? And I was there last week, and so I picked the wrong week to go. I didn't see you there, but if I want to know what's going on in Burbank, I check with the one and only Count Eric Connor. And if you want to keep in touch with me, I'm on Twitter. I'm on Instagram at ChristianDMZ. You can subscribe to my personal YouTube channel, The Blattcast, BLADTCAST. And that is where you will get our show, Marvel Movie Talk, which will return this Thursday, where we'll be talking about episode 1 of She-Hulk. And at 11 a.m. Pacific, 2 p.m. Eastern. And I do have my own personal podcast, The Blattcast, BLADTCAST. Episode 499, posting this week. We took a few weeks off, and that does tie into the aforementioned Star Trek Strange New Worlds. It's 2 conversations about that show. And very soon, Blattcast 500 will include an interview with the great Dana Carvey. So make sure you look for all of that. That is all the time that we have for this month. Join us next month. And until then, as the great Stan Lee would say, you keep buying them, I'll keep writing them.